So thank you, all three of you, for joining us here this weekend at Mad Monster Party Charlotte 2022 and this Q&A for Mutilator 2. So, buddy, it's been 38 years since the original film. What inspired you to write and direct a sequel to it now?
Wait a minute.
What inspired you to write and direct a sequel to Mutilator 2 38 years later? What inspired you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Why'd you write it?
well,
Why are you doing this?
Damian needed something to do. I was inspired 38 years ago, but it just didn't happen. I don't know if it inspired you. Making that first movie was so much fun and so satisfying that I really wanted to make another one. Everybody connected with it wanted to make another one, except the MPAA. MPAA didn't want us to make another one. And they did everything to prevent it, including costing us a lot of money. And it took a while to recover from that. And then I had children who were growing up. I had other responsibilities. And I did go to LA. I went to the American Film Institute and stayed out there for a while, but I put some packages together, but I was never able to get anything made. And my parents were getting elderly. It was time for me to come home, so I came home. And then, well, it's time to do number 2. Here it is. And we started a couple of years ago, and then the pandemic hit, and we shut it down. Ann remembers that. Pulled the plug, and so we plugged it back in. There's a chance we'll lose the location, so we couldn't wait. It was now or never.
Now, Damian, I know you said previously you're a huge fan of the original movie from when you were a kid. As a fan and as an actor, what does it mean to you to be a part of this sequel?
Yeah, I had several copies of it on VHS. In fact, I had a heavily cut version of it, which I bought from a mom and pop store, and I put it on. I had my friends over. I was like, "You got to see this Mutilator," and I put it on, and then I was watching it, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like this is cut. It's a PG Mutilator, so it was a family-friendly Mutilator. It's a very different movie, but yeah. So when I had done, I did this Stranger sequel, and then when that came out, the New York Times reviewed it. And the New York Times, generally they love slasher movies, but they did not give a favorable review of The Strangers Prey at Night. But in it, they, amongst the lashing and and the lynching, they said that The Strangers Prey at Night ripped off a scene from The Mutilator, and I was like, what? And I was like, am I supposed to believe that this critic has seen The Mutilator, New York Times? That's great. So, and we couldn't for the life of us figure out why, because we were kind of like celebrating the awful reviews. But I think we found out it was the pool scene. So, Mutilator has ruined pool scenes for all other movies. But yeah, I remember I was at a wedding in North Carolina when Buddy reached out to me about the Mutilator 2, and I thought it was a prank. I was like, it's one of these prank, I'm not good enough to be on a prank show. This is like a prank email. It's like Nigerian princess type thing. So I didn't believe it, but he sent me a script and stuff. I was like, this is pretty elaborate. I'll go along with it. And then, I mean, I of course got to do it. Definitely. I'm not big on nostalgia. But that one, is definitely like a no-brainer.
Now, of course, both you and Carl are in the film. What, if anything, can you reveal about your characters in the movie?
Not much, or we may get hooked, perhaps. Well, when Buddy reached out to me, he described what my character is and what I do. I laughed for a good 3 minutes, and I said, whatever this is, I have to do it. This was the most amazing character I have ever played, and I cannot wait to film this. I'm sure Damian has the same.
Yeah, I won't say anything about anything, but I'll say that, he sent me the script, and I was like, oh, it's been a while. I wonder if he softened over time. Maybe this is kind of like a PG, like the PG version I had, but it's alarmingly violent. Really makes the first one kind of look like a Disney Plus show. So it's quite gone in the other direction. I was a little worried about Buddy for a little bit after reading it. But yeah, so there's a lot of that, a lot of the mutilating, and yeah, that's it.
With reference to the cutting of Mutilator 1, really the MPAA was merciless. They demanded so many cuts. They demanded that we cut out a shot that was not even there. You know, with movie magic, you can make things happen. Well, there's a shot where Ralph gets stuck in the neck with a gig. And they said, we can see that going through its flesh. We're not going to allow that. You got to cut it out. We said, that shot doesn't exist. It's not there. We had to get the editor in the editing room on the phone with the MPAA. We were calling from New York to LA and had them roll it really slow and look, and so they could see what we had done, and it wasn't there. And they finally relented and let that one stay in. But that was the only one. They were terrible. Look, they do. What they did for me, you screen it in a room with maybe 25 people watching, and it's an audience. And the thing is led by at that time, was led by a couple of young women, interns for the MPAA, I suspect. And the audience is made up of volunteers from the PTA of the local grade school. Now, what kind of chance did the Mutilator have with those people deciding what was going to get cut? Well, none. Yeah, and it's clearly one-sided, and it was for them and not for us. So, but we don't care about it anymore.
No. And obviously too, since the 1980s, they've kind of they're still there, but they've kind of they don't have the same power.
There's so many venues available now with streaming and all. That they don't have the same chokehold they had before. So we're looking forward to something really gruesome.
Nice. Now, of course, besides Damian and Carl, you've also brought back a couple of actors bringing back a couple of actors from the original film.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, Ruthie Martinez, who played the final girl, and Bill Hitchcock, who played Ralph, who got it in the throat, are coming back. And they were going to be here today. Ruthie's an actress, and she got a job at the last minute. She had to fill in for somebody acting, although she's going to be here later tonight and have breakfast in the morning and try to meet as many people as she can. But she's got to go back to Sanford for a matinee. Bill, something came up at the very last minute for Bill. I talked to him this morning, and he just couldn't come. But we're looking forward to having both of them back. And I don't want to give anything away, but when they come back, they'll be playing themselves and not the characters from the first movie. Interesting.
Nice.
Something to keep your eye
Okay.
on.
Let's see. Looking back at the first film, what was the most challenging thing, either with the filming or in the post-production process, that you had in bringing your vision to screen? I mean, obviously, MPAA is a big thing, but outside of the MPAA, what was kind of the most challenging aspect to bring what you wanted onto the screen?
Distribution was really the worst. Particularly, it broke in the Northeast, mainly in New York City, and I think in San Francisco and LA, and in a few places, and it did very well. Made it to number 13 on Variety's weekly chart of top grossing movies. Stayed on the chart for 6 weeks, and then we couldn't get bookings because it was not rated. It was unrated. And so when we could get bookings, the newspapers, radio, and television wouldn't carry the ads. So we had no choice. We had to cut it, had to go back and cut it, which ruined it, in my opinion. That was the worst part about it.
What for you was kind of the hardest thing to have to cut from the film? What was there a sequence that was hardest for you to cut from what you had originally shot for the movie?
What was hard for me to cut?
Yeah.
Well, we asked them for instructions. Tell us what you want, and we'll do it. And they say there are no rules. Yeah. You cut it, bring it back. We'll look at it and say if we like it. and we did, and they did not like it. They even got on the poster. They said that the dead policeman, we can't have a badge. You can't have a dead cop on the poster. So we had to take his badge off, but we'd put a gun belt on him to signify it. They wanted, if an implement touched the skin, they didn't want that. If it was bleeding, they didn't want that. The woman was dead with her eyes open. Can't have dead people with their eyes open. It was just every scene that was made for the fans, they were against it. That's the way it was.
Even with having to go through all that, what did it mean to you knowing that the movie still found the audience, even with it having to cut a lot of stuff from the movie, you still created a movie that found its audience and that audience is loved. As a director, as a creator, what did that mean to you?
I loved it. It was, and continues to be, extremely gratifying and satisfying. I was talking to my friends earlier. I went walking around out there, and I was recognized by 3 people, and I was amazed because my face hasn't been on the screen. And I was walking down the hall, and this guy said, "Hey, buddy," and I couldn't. It's satisfying, unexpected, and I love it.
Now, Damian, as a fan of the original movie, and also Carl, maybe to a degree as well too, do you feel pressure living up to what Buddy had created in the original film with what you're going to be a part of in part 2?
It's an honor. I mean, to be part of a 1984 cult classic and to come back for the sequel, how could you say no? I mean, horror fans are the best around the world, and thank you, and this is something that you have to do. I mean, to be part of it, thank you again, buddy.
I didn't feel pressure until you just. No, I mean, you want to reach that and rise up to that, and I'm confident that I can bring it. I was there, watching the thing, watch all versions, PG version of it, and all that stuff. I mean, I've done sequels before and been crapped all over for them, so I've been there. So I want the pressure.
I just don't want to fuck it up.
So, how far along are you in the production process for the film at this point?
How far along are we?
How far along are you? Yeah.
We have a screenplay, and we have a cast. We have locations. We have rooms. We have almost a complete crew, and we have a little bit of money. We are fairly far along. We're without saying when or where, we're really close to shooting now. And with some luck, it'll be on the screen in the fall.
Nice. Very cool.
All right.
Very cool. So I'm going to open up to you guys here in a second. So I'm going to have one more question while we're getting to our first couple of people up here to the microphone. So are you looking for, as was mentioned, there's so many more avenues for films now than just theatrical. Are you looking for theatrical or streaming or TV, or what are you aiming for?
I would hope for theatrical. I don't know what the situation will be like in the future. I don't guess anybody does. And that leaves streaming and DVD. I talked with Ewan Kent a few months ago, who's my contact at Arrow Video, and he said they want to bring Mutilator 1 out again on a 4K version, high-def 4K version. I said, it's fine with me. Let's do it. But so that may be in the works, and I'm hoping that they will want to distribute Mutilator 2, and I feel like they will want the DVD part. So I don't know. It'd be good to see it on this big screen.
Nice. Cool. All right. Our first question from the audience.
Question for all 3 gentlemen, starting with the actors. you guys seem to have signed on pretty early on in the process, perhaps even before there was a screenplay. Was there any trepidation at all to sign on to something that wasn't fully formed yet?
Well, I had been sent a script for it, so I read that. I read that here. I mean, I cracked it open right away, which I don't usually do, but I had to see it and read it to believe it. So I mean, it didn't take much to talk me into it. So no, not really. Just going it. I mean, no brainer for me with that. I mean, and that was it was COVID pushed, delayed, along with everything else in our lives. So, I mean, that's why it's been, twice as long for it to get to where it is now.
Yeah.
As an actor, you want to be in stuff that's seen, and it's either you could be in something that won't be seen or something that will be seen all over the world. I choose this because it'll be seen all over the world. That answers your question.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper, for the first film, I've been lucky to visit the filming locations of the first film, and they're all in an extraordinarily small area. You can walk to every place in the film: the swimming pool, the beach house, the bar, and the grocery store. Was that a conscious effort when you wrote the first film to keep everything that tightly packed, or was it just lucky?
So he was talking about how in the original film, everything's kind of in a very closed space, a closed kind of quarters situation.
Yeah.
What was the last part of it?
Was that a conscious effort to keep that tightly?
Yeah, it was. As it turned out, the house, the little oceanfront townhouse where it was made, I owned at the time, and so we had a location. And I owned one right next door, which became storage for the grip equipment and a production office. It was just very convenient, and it was as much a budgetary consideration as it was anything else. But it turned out to work well, I think, dramatically. Yeah.
Now, another cast member who's been announced for it is Terry Kaiser. Terry Kaiser?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about bringing him on board for the Mutilator 2?
Oh, yeah, we can thank Damian for that. Terry and Damian are friends, and Damian presented Terry, and of course we were glad that happened. Mm-hmm. And so Terry's coming on. He's on board.
Very cool.
I met Terry here.
Yeah.
So, we were both smoking outside, and he just came up and started talking to me. I was like, "Is fucking Bernie talking to me?" And
He's alive.
Oh, he's hilarious. He's a pure joy. He's punk rock. And we met up again at Arizona, Mad Monster, and we're hanging out. And I was like, I mean, I'm a big fan of he's a delight as a human being, but he's also a great character actor. And we were starting production on this movie called Dark Circles, and I was like, listen, I got to get you in for this. So what's going to take? And he's just game. He's just he's 83, but he's into it. He'll do anything. He's so good.
Yeah.
So when kind of Mutilator 2 was firing up real, I know they were looking for an actor, in their 80s, and they were like, does anyone know? And I was like, well, I happen to know Terry. I think he's fantastic. So I called Terry up, and I was like, Terry, I want to tell you a little story about a movie called The Mutilator and my VHS copies of it. And he was like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. He's great.
Very cool. Yes, right there.
Damian, for you only. Yeah. Strangers sequel, Wrong Turn reimagining, and now Mutilator 2. What's the next one? If you could do a sequel, what's the next one that you would play?
I don't do originals, okay? I only do sequels. Like, someone fucking set the groundwork, and then I'm going to stand on the shoulders and take all the heat from the horror fans, okay? So what's next is, I don't know, Terror Trips 2. Terror Trips 2. Who do I want to play? Like, in the... I'd want to play. I don't know. Like I'll say something like I'm an actor, you know, I went to acting school and stuff. But like I want to play like Cropsy or like the miner from. I like doing the acting parts with the face and the talking stuff and get like diving in doing theater. But I also like the shenanigans of the slasher stuff too. So, you know, you don't want to like set like I used to tell people I wanted to remake The Birds, and they're like, "You go fuck yourself." It's like, okay, I'll just do like the My Bloody Valentine 2 then or something. So I don't know. I'll think about it.
So I saw Mutilator for the first time just a year ago, thanks to Shudder. And it's funny, I didn't realize there was actually a PG version. So I'm really curious. I understand, you know, violence obviously had to be cut, but what about like narrative-wise? Because obviously, you know, the shooting of the mother in the beginning, can you even have that as a narrative, or any of the risque stuff that happens throughout? Is that cut as well?
You want me to comment on the PG version of the Mutilator?
Absolutely, man. It's
You know, I watched that once, and it was like it just didn't make sense to me. I didn't know who cut it. I thought maybe the video store had cut it, but like I don't know who fucking did that. I mean, it still, I guess, made sense story-wise. I mean, I turned it off. I didn't, because I had other copies of it, so I just put that on and went into it. But, you know, I mean, it was just like, it was almost like off-screen kills every time. And it was much shorter, too, because there's no mutilating. So, so to get to it, like, phoop,
So I guess just to follow up then, do you know, does it still exist? Can I find that cut somewhere?
why do you want to do that?
Because I love the movie so much. I just want to see how neutered it is, you know, because it seems funny.
Well,
I never even thought that maybe there was another copy of it out in
Yeah.
the world.
If you love it so much, don't get the other copy.
I get like a completist or
A
something.
morbid curiosity, you know.
I don't know.
Well,
You
don't.
know.
I mean, I burnt mine, so I don't know if that, but
Well, if you find one, just burn it like Damian did. I mean,
Thanks.
good luck.
Right there.
For Mr. Cooper, will this year Jack Chatham be involved in the sequel at all, since he's still with us?
Jack put himself on the unavailable list because of his age. He had said that he would like to come down during the shoot for one day just to watch it and be on the set. And he's got a niece who's agreed to bring him down, and I sincerely hope that happens, and I think he wants it to happen. And when he does, we're going to shoot him. I don't know what we're going to do with him, but we're going to put him in there somewhere.
While we're waiting for another question or two to come up to the microphone, how obviously the Mutilator is very much visually and story-wise 80s cult classic. What is the style you're going for Mutilator 2?
We're going for the same thing.
Nice.
Only more of it.
Nice. Very cool. Well, we have any other questions out there like to come up to the microphone? Or even from your seat, just raise your hand up. We can go ahead and call on you as well, too. Of course, one of the very distinctive elements of Mutilator is the opening title song. Can you talk a little bit about Fall Break?
The title, you mean?
The theme song.
Oh, the theme song. Yeah, I can, but before we do, let me back up to you asked what it's going to be like. I don't know how many people know of Joe Castro, the special effects expert. Joe is going to be doing the special effects on Mutilator 2, and he's already started. It's going to be really good. I forgot what the other question was.
Talk a little bit about the one of the very memorable things about Mutilator is the theme song.
The theme song.
Can you talk a little bit about how that came about?
I was fortunate enough to meet a guy, a composer, a young man, Michael Menard, and I was interviewing in New York City. I was interviewing different composers, and the first floor of the film center where we were in post was a deli, and I went down and met Michael Menard in a deli, and he had a tape recorder, and he said, "Here's some of my stuff," and he put it in a tape recorder, and I put earphones on, and he started playing his music, and a beautiful young woman came walking through the deli and made her order and got her stuff and walked out, and it was perfect movement for the sound. It was like I was watching a movie and listening to the soundtrack. And Michael really got into it. I said, he was the guy. He did what he called preparing a musical palette with stingers and buzzes and da-dums and things like that, and worked his way through it. And we worked together, a little more piano here, a little less piano there. He said, "Well, in the theme song, what do you want?" Well, at that time, beach music was very popular. I said, "We want the same sort of like, sound sort of like beach music." And I sent him some beach music songs so he knew what I was talking about. And he is friends with, I can't remember the guy's name, who wrote Under the Boardwalk. You might remember that one. Yeah. And that guy helped him write the theme song. Wow. Music and lyrics. And that's how that came about.
Very cool. Well, I want to thank you all for coming out here this weekend and for sharing your stories on the original Mutilator, but also letting us know how things are progressing on Mutilator 2. Everyone's definitely looking forward for it coming out later on this year. It's very exciting to know that hopefully by the end of this year, it's very exciting knowing that this is very, we're literally less than a year away from seeing this become realized, and having something for fans of the original film to look forward to. So thank you, all three of you, for being here this weekend, and especially for taking part in this Q&A.